glad to share. She shared obviously some of the business background, but I'd like to share a little bit about my family. And so we, Carol and I have adopted, gosh, it was 14 years ago now. So we went to China to adopt our first child, which is Hope, and she's 15. So this is Hope, was our first trip 14 years ago. And then we've adopted 5 more since over the years. So we have a full family, total of 10 children. And our oldest is 33, and our youngest is 8. So we have a big spread of children. So we're very blessed and very thankful. And then Daniel, he's 27. He lives in China, in Fuzhou, and he's been there for 7 years, working in a foster care facility, doing ministry work. And that's his wife, Cece, and they've been married for 4 years, and she's from there in China, in Fuzhou. So we have a large family, and we also have a grandson. So one of our sons is married to a young lady. We have an international family. Her family is from Nigeria, so we have everybody from around the world. So yes. Let me see here. And just a couple more pictures, a little closer, you can see better. And some of y'all know Daniel and Cece. Have y'all met? Raise your hands if you've seen Daniel and Cece yet. Okay. They spoke at Church of the Living God a few times. So. And there is trouble right here. So they are very busy. So very, very exciting. So before I start, what I'm going to share is you may towards business, but the principles that are here are applicable to everything in life. Whether you're in ministry or you're leading a group somewhere else, even in a church or outside of church, or you work for a company. So some of the stuff is more about yourself. You know, what kind of leader are you? And so when I go through this and I start sharing, I'd like you to think about some of the things. And then at the end, we have some self-assessments for you to take home with you that you can take on yourself and see how you're doing. And it talks about the heart of leadership. And so I like to relate that to back thinking about Jesus and how he was when he was here on earth, and how he had his own company. He had 12 disciples. And they were with him, and he mentored them and taught them, and how he led them and taught them. And so a lot of the stuff will be very similar, you know, is taken from the Bible, what we use. I know you know George Chu. Does anybody else here know who George Chu is? George Chu? No, just one. He was vice president of Coca-Cola. He was in Shanghai, and he retired He retired several years ago.
Zhu Zhenzhong.
Yeah. So I've had the privilege for several years to travel with him back to China, teaching biblical principles in China too. So I go back quite often, almost every year, and so sometimes twice a year. So it's been real fun doing that journey with him too. So a little bit about my restaurant. So this restaurant here you see in the top left is over in Copperfield, in the northwest part of Houston. So it was at one point was the #1 store in chain about 4 years ago. And we would probably still be up there, but Chick-fil-A built 3 stores real close. So they're building a lot more in Houston, so as y'all know. So that's kind of my background. Grace said I've been in Chick-fil-A for 37 years as a business owner, but total 43. I was a team member for 5 years, then worked corporate after graduating college for a year. So Chick-fil-A is in my blood. So there's 37 years. Okay. I want to start out with some interesting information. This is from the Small Business Association here in the United States. And interesting, the thing is, the statistics weren't as interesting as the results of it. But this talks about that about 1/3 of all the businesses that start, all of them, after 2 years, they're not in existence anymore, which is a lot. And after 5 years, it's like 50% of the companies that start out small businesses are no longer in existence. So Does anyone have any ideas? Do you think you know maybe why some of these companies don't make it?
Not
Anybody
making money.
curious? What?
No, not making money.
Not making money. That's a big one. Yeah, that's in the top 10. What are some other ones? Anybody have any ideas maybe to guess?
Not good people, partners, not products, and maybe there's no system,
Yeah.
not enough fund,
Yep, that's all good stuff. So I was surprised what the number one answer was, though. I was expecting maybe some people going to business don't have enough capital, things like that. They don't plan long term when they get in it, and they don't, because it takes 2 years to really get a business going. And this was interesting coming up. So this is the same thing. This is the pie chart of it where you see that 50% are still open, but at 33% is a red that fails. It's amazing. And the question you ask is, why? What goes wrong? What is the reasons behind it? And there's this gentleman here by the name of Michael Ames. He gives reasons for failure, and I'm going to share what he had for the top 10. And this is statistical information that he got from the Small Business Association. The number one was lack of experience. And that was the one I was a little surprised. I know people may not know exactly what to do, but it was in all levels of the business. They didn't know how to lead their business. They didn't know how to lead their people. They didn't know how to find good people. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. And obviously insufficient capital was number 2. Did you see low sales? Yeah, number 10. So it made it. So, all right. So one of the most important things when you start a business you start out with is you have to have a vision, right? The Bible talks about the people without a vision will perish. And so otherwise we'll just wander around. So to have direction, a vision gives us direction and shows us where to go. So it defines the optimal desired future state. It gives a picture of what an organization wants to achieve over time. It provides guidance and inspiration as to what an organization is focused on achieving in 5, 10, or more years. So it's super important. So I'm going to share with you what Chick-fil-A's is. Our corporate purpose, which is our vision statement, is to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that's been entrusted to us, to have a positive influence on all who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. So there's 2 parts to it. First part is to make sure we're being a good steward of everything, that we're taking care of the people that work for us, we're taking care of the building, we're taking our suppliers, we have good relationships with our suppliers, all those kind of things, and just making sure we're not wasting money, like scheduling too many people where it's inefficient and we're wasting money, stuff like that. So that's being a good stewardship. And then the other was have a positive influence in everyone. And most of you know when you go to Chick-fil-A, it's a little bit different than going to maybe McDonald's or somewhere else. We have people that will bring your food to you at the table and things like that if you eat inside. And so it's just a little different. Anybody know the common phrase when you go into Chick-fil-A? When you say thank you, what do people at Chick-fil-A normally say? My pleasure. So I'm sure some of you have heard that. So it's a common phrase they use. So, and then our mission statement is to be remarkable. So the reason I share this is, like I said before, this is what guides us. So everything that we do has to go through this. All the decisions we make, how we spend our money in marketing, if it's not meeting, if we're not glorifying God by being a faithful steward with the money that we spend on marketing, if we're going to just do marketing to do marketing, but it doesn't help grow the business, we're wasting money, so we're not being good stewards. If we also in here is when we talk about what we do for our team members, how we pay them, how do we take care of them, things like that. The guests when they come in, what are we doing to help have a positive experience with the guests when they come to Chick-fil-A. So all these things are super important, and so that's why it's so important to create that vision, because every decision that we make in the restaurant has to go through this. And if there's something that we're talking about and it's not part of this, then we stop talking about it because it's not important to the business. Sometimes we get talking about things that other people do, but that's not who we are. And maybe if you have a company or if you have a church, that might not be who you are. You need to do what God's called y'all to be. And this is what He's called us to do. So that's what guides us and how we make all our decisions. So, obviously, someone said hire the right people, right? So that's a real important piece. Gosh, it's you know, once you establish that vision, that's a tough one. You know, when you go through the interview process, figuring out who they are. But for us, we're very customer service oriented, very hospitality oriented. So we just think if we hired people that didn't smile, people they would come into Chick-fil-A and never stand there frowning. That wouldn't be good for our business. So we really look for people that are happy, that are smile, good communication skills. These are some basic things that we just look for. And this is easy examples. And obviously there's some jobs or different levels in leadership that we're more technical. So we're looking for experience in certain areas, and we ask a lot of questions around that to see if they're a match for us. So this is just, you can't, if you have people that work for you, you're never going to be successful. And if you work for a company, may not be your own, or another organization, you know what it's like. You got people that you work with, you go, oh my gosh, you know, they're not pulling their weight, they're not doing this, I can't believe they hired these people. And so that's why it's so important to get everybody's pulling their part. It makes it a lot easier. Has anyone ever done a tug of war before?
Yeah.
On a rope?
Yeah.
No? You know what tug of war is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you get a long rope, you get 2 teams of people. You can have individuals or teams of people. But we went to a summer camp this year, but last year we went, and there were a couple guys that were on the other team that were ex-NFL football players. They were really big and strong. And we had a small group of people that weren't very big, like myself. And we were like, oh my gosh, we're going to lose. There's no way we're going to win. And so when we started, but one of the guys that was on our team said, when I say pull, we all pull together as a team. And so what happened is we were pulling together, but they all were so strong they didn't work as a team. And so we actually beat them, which was, they were very surprised, and so was I, that we won. But the thing is it's talking about teamwork. We have to pull together. And it's like you want people that are going to work with you, be part of that team, so you can accomplish the goals that you want to achieve for the business or for a church or anything else, or in your life. So. Now, this is a picture of an airplane. So all of y'all, I'm sure, have flown. And so when we talk about flying, how do you know what seat is your seat on an airplane? It shows on where? Your ticket tells you, gives you seat number, aisle number, and seat or A, B, C, or whatever. Okay. So you have assigned seating. And so it makes it much faster to load a plane when everyone has assigned seating. I think Southwest Airlines doesn't have assigned seating, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer to load their planes than it does the others that do. But you pay cheaper because you're taking more time. But this is an example of why once we hire people and get the right people, we have to find the right seat. And how do we do that? We base that off of their strengths, and we need to learn what their strengths are, what they're really good at, what they're best at, and put them in. If I have someone that's really super smiley and bubbly and lots of hospitality, we want to put them on the front counter, and we want them. That's not someone I would want to put in the kitchen. So people who work in the kitchen, people are fast, think quick, and move, and they don't have to smile because they're in the back in the kitchen. So that's kind of an example of us in our business. You know, just got to put the people in the right seats. We got to make sure we get the right leaders, and it's good to have a different mixture of leaders, though, because that's what makes a really strong team. When everyone has different strengths, when we make decisions, we're making well thought out decisions because everyone has a different strength. That's a great point of view. So that's part of that same thing in the business. Where do they go? You know, if you design your organizational chart, you may have sometimes a vacancy in there and you don't know what to do. But I can share from experience. One time, more than once, several times, I filled a leadership position with someone I thought may be ready, but we had a strong need to have someone there, so I put them in that position, and they weren't very successful, and wasn't good for the business either. And so sometimes that we have to be real careful when we make those selections, even though we may feel pressure to do it because there's a need for it. Like here's a vacancy, don't fill it with just anybody. Make sure we really get qualified people, and that will really help us. All right. And this is talking more about, just meet with your leadership teams if you have a leadership team. I know churches obviously do. So you have different people, different parts of ministry that you get together and you talk about that. And just getting together and sharing ideas. It's super important that we do that and we get together and we share in the small groups. The communication is important because then when you meet with the leaders, everyone knows what is expected of everybody, what we're trying to accomplish. Creates alignment, and then it creates what I talked about before, teamwork. We want everyone to be part of the team, and so a lot of people use meetings for sharing information, which can become very boring and very dry. But what you really want to use the meetings for is really problem solving. What are your challenges? Why are you not maybe meeting goals that are tied to your vision for your business, and you're not doing that? So that's where you talk about those things and problem solve together so you can help build the business to be better. And you can apply that to any part of your life too. There's more to leadership than just great individual work. So we're actually better and smarter when we work as a team than we do as an individual. So, and Jesus realized that. That's why he had 12 disciples instead of just picking one to count on to make it happen. He had 12. But then he also knew that the 12 may not be good enough, so God sought Saul, right? Paul. So there was to help too, because the disciples got a little scared and were hiding. And so Paul was the one that went out and really helped. So, all right, this is a picture of an iceberg. So when you normally see an iceberg floating, you only usually see about 10%. 90% of an iceberg is below the water, which we all know the story about the Titanic, right? You see the small iceberg, but it's massive underneath, and that's why they misjudged it and ran into it. So it's important. It talks about that the part 90% below, if you see in the picture, that is your leadership character. So, and then the top part is your skills. It's important to have good skills. It's important to continue to educate yourself and develop yourself, and we'll talk about those. But when it comes down to it, if you want to be a great leader, it's all about your leadership character. You model what you do. You don't just tell people you have to do this and then you don't do it. I mean, and you're just setting the example. You're leading by example, and so all these things are real important when it comes to that. I like to use this golden rule. Some of us may know what that means. Is treat others as you want to be treated, and that's applicable here. That's what really leadership character is about. How you're going to treat other people. So, if we follow that rule, it'll help us a lot. And like that last part says, become the leader people want to follow. And when we lead with great character, and screaming and yelling at people is not going to help. Losing your cool. We all are going to lose our cool at some point, but we have to remove ourselves from those situations and not use that against the people that work for us. And so that character, when we make bad decisions or we don't care about things and they see us not caring, how can we expect them to care about the business if they see us not caring about the business? And so, or talking bad about the business. So that leadership character is super important. Okay. Now, here we go. So, leaders think others first. So that's just talking about more along the character line. So this is what we talk about serve. Chick-fil-A uses what we call the serve model, and this is kind of a piece of it. This is what helps us be successful. So, and then you see the S is for see the future. So we have to plan and have a vision for what we want to build in the future. Engage and develop others around us. Reinvent continuously, value results in relationships, and then embody the values. So these are strategies that help us attain those things. So without leadership character, no one cares about your skills. So it goes back to that iceberg, right? If you're not treating the people well or you're not setting an example, no one cares how much you know or how smart you are. You're not, they don't want to be led by someone like that. So if you want to be successful, you have to lead with your character. That's super important, not just in business, but in life too. Like this is an example of how we should lead our lives. Okay, so I'm going to go through some different pieces here that are part of, like I said, the assessment we're going to talk about is heart of the leadership. So I'm going to talk about different parts of the heart. And so one of them we're going to talk about leaders respond with courage. So they articulate the vision, which we just read a minute ago, build relationships with challenging people. So a lot of people, when they have people they have to work with, they don't get along with, what do they want to do? They want to avoid them, right? They don't want to talk to them very much, spend time so quick. That's not the answer. We need to build relationships with them, find out how to bridge those gaps and break down those barriers. Challenge people to grow and change. And that's always how can we help people. It's giving them feedback and helping them, but do it in a way that's encouraging, not discouraging people. Mend broken relationships, confront difficult problems, and make hard and unpopular decisions. As a leader, that's a tough one to do. Sometimes you may have a group of young leaders that are there thinking this is the way we need to go, but you know that's because you've been there before, you know that's not going to work. And sometimes you might have to make an unpopular decision because it's not good for the business or for yourself. So we have to do that. So we have to respond with courage. It takes a lot of courage to do those things and to not just sit in the back row and just let the business drive itself. A lot of people think that if they just go in and do their thing and their part, that the business is going to be fine. So it's not good. Okay? So leaders usually don't wait, they initiate. Leaders hunger for wisdom. Okay. So on the wisdom piece, it's super important. Wisdom is essential because it informs our decisions, and ultimately leaders succeed or fail by their decisions. So that's going to be the success of it. You know, we have to make sure that we're following that. We want to hunger for wisdom. We want to look at other businesses, maybe that are successful. What are they doing? What is it that we can use, but also still stays with the vision for the business? Maybe going to workshops and going out to different places and learning from other people. It's like even myself, I still visit. I just took a group of 5 leaders just this past Wednesday to another Chick-fil-A all the way at Wallaceville Road on the other side of Houston, close to Baytown. So when there's different things we're looking for, like we're really good in their drive-thru. So we wanted to see what we could learn from their drive-thru. There's another Chick-fil-A we're going to go see in November that's really good at their order accuracy in the drive-thru. So we go and learn from them and see. So it's important. We need to have that hunger for wisdom. If we ever feel like we've arrived and we've made it, that's not good. I mean, I could easily done that when we were number 1, but it's not. You just can't be complacent because eventually you'll fall back down. And so you want to make sure that we're staying focused and that we have a hunger and drive to learn and to seek out more wisdom. We need to be open to the truth, and that, you know, if you know what you know about the world, you know, a lifelong commitment of learning will help us to have openness. And so we need to make a commitment to have that long lifetime of learning, and not just I've done enough studying, or I've read enough, or I've visited other places and seen enough. So we just have to make sure we continue to move on. Another area in that too, there's a book I read quite a few years ago. It's called Mindset, and this lady's name is Carol Dweck, and she talks about a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And so most people have a fixed mindset because they're comfortable with it. It's what they know, and so they do it the same way every time. So, but when there's somebody comes up with new ideas, they tend not to do that because they're comfortable with the fixed mindset. The growth mindset is the one that when you're always trying to seek new wisdom and new learnings to get better. So, and it's a challenge in our life. It's like why we always need to study the scripture or the Bibles. We need to know, we may read it one time, but 2 years later we read it, God's got us in a different place and it means something different in our life. And so we always need to keep learning and as we move forward. So leaders expect the best. The future has not been written, it is written by leaders. So you get what you expect, right? So if you expect little, you're going to receive little. And if you expect much, you'll receive much. And talks about that in the Bible. So, to much is expected, much is given. So it's just these are all biblical principles. And so if we just adhere to these, it will help us to be successful in life. These things I'm teaching you doesn't mean it's not stressful, it's not hard, and it's not difficult. That is part of it, but this will help make it a lot easier and better. Like events that happen in the world, we have a lot of people see different events that happen around the world, and they see them as they are, and people accept things the way they are. But the future they see is always, we need the people that have the best leaders always see the world as what can we do better, what can we do best, have a vision or a different version than what's happening at the moment. What could we have done better? And so that's what this is talking about. Leaders expect the best. How can they always have that want to learn and grow and continue to develop to be the best you can be. Most leaders typically are more optimistic. Some of you may have known someone that's very pessimistic, and that's not fun when you're working with someone that's very pessimistic. Most people don't want to follow a leader that's pessimistic. It's just not encouraging. Doesn't seem fun. Where someone that's very, very optimistic about stuff in the future, you want to be a part of that because it sounds like something cool, and it's something where you want to grow and be different than you are now. So, and most people that are pessimistic usually end up being complainers. So, you don't want to be that. So, expect the best. Let's see next. Leaders accept responsibility. So, in this one, this is what great leaders do. The best leaders don't blame others. They own their actions and their outcomes. So if things don't go right, even though you may not have made the decision, but you had leaders with you that you talked about it and you let them run with it, you still gave them permission. So it's still, ultimately, if it didn't go well, it's your responsibility, and so you have to own that as a leader. That probably, I've noticed in my businesses, that inspires my people more than anything. If things don't go well or things don't happen right, I take ownership for it. And because if I start blaming them, guess what they do? They crawl back in the shell. They don't want to try to help the business be better. They don't want to help things move on. So it's really important that we do that we're not blaming others for things that don't go right. So, there we go. So, another acronym at the end, the heart of leadership. So, it talks about hunger. H is hunger for wisdom. E is accept the best. A is we accept responsibility. And R is we respond with courage. So, we think of others first. The heart of leadership is a matter of the heart. So, it's all about who we want to be and how we want to be, and it starts with us. And to be great leaders, moms are leaders of the home, right? So it's important. Like my wife has a lot of kids at home, so how she responds to stuff, and she's still a leader. So you can be a leader anywhere you're at, and so it's important in life that we just look at our hearts and where our heart is on our journey in life, and so we can affect people positively, not negatively, and have a better outlook, be more encouraging to others around us, And, you know, if people know that we're Christians, we want to be a positive influence on those around us. I mean, it's not good when they see that person and they know they're a Christian. They're going, oh man, that guy's wise. Christians are hypocritical, you know, and stuff like that. So we don't really want to be that way and live that life. So I think this is super important. This is how I view my life and what I do in my business as well as me personally. And so what I've done today is I've brought an assessment. We have some in the back. They're not for you to take here, they're for you to take home. And it goes over these different areas. It talks about, like I'll just go through a few right now. One is hunger for wisdom. So it's on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 is never, 2 is rarely, 3 is sometimes, 4 is often, and 5 is always. So, like an example, I see my personal development as one of my highest priorities. So if you score yourself a 1 or a 2, that's obviously an area where when you come back in after you finish all the questions, the assessment, that you might want to look at your gaps on them and what that means. So you want, after you go through this assessment, when you do it and you're sitting at home, and because this is just between you, this isn't really for anyone else to see, and this is to help each one of us to get better. And I use this with all my leaders. I use it for myself, and I even use it with my kids at home. Sometimes when they're having challenging days or something, we'll talk about this and what areas or opportunities are there. And so when you find the gaps, when the scores are lower, that's the areas you want to work on. You don't want to pick a bunch of them, but you want to pick a couple. And that's where you create your plan for improvement. What are you going to work on? How are you going to change? And then a real important part in this too, I didn't mention it, but when you fill this out, if there's someone you really trust, you have a really close friend or a best friend that you know of, it's really nice to have someone that you share with, that you can trust, and give them information. Say, hey, I'm going to work on these things in my life. You don't have to give them your assessment, but say, hey, this is some things I want to work on. Kind of help hold me accountable to make sure that I'm doing this and doing the right things so I can bring change in my life, so I can be better than where I'm at today. And that helps. I know I've used that a lot. There's people in my life that I share with stuff I work on, and so if they know I'm struggling with something or they see that I'm not doing it, they'll remind me. So we got to have truth tellers around us. So I even have one of them inside my business. He's about 38 years old, and so he is obviously much younger than me, but still, he is such a truth teller. I know he has no problem doing it without feeling awkward, even though he works for me. So it's kind of nice to get that feedback when he knows maybe I'm stepping over the line. So just remember to stay on course, never give up, always keep trying, and try to get better. So, but that's it. That's kind of the heart of leadership, and hopefully this will encourage you and help you to be, if you have your own business, to be a better leader, or if you're a leader wherever you're at, a leader in a church, or leader of your home. So but I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me come here and share with you.
好，我们谢谢，谢谢各位。